Happy Monday. I hope this works. This is like my third time trying to go live on here. So it's working. I am coming on live to share some good tidbits and my personal experience about the word enough, stories that we tell ourselves, and my soul sister Romina Hoda is joining me, and we're going to talk about the Sister Summit event happening in Phoenix, May 18th to the 20th. We have women from all backgrounds, all walks of life coming together to join us in paradise. We're so excited about it. So if you're watching this live, please let me know where you're watching from. If you have any questions about my storytelling experience or the Sister Summit event, please feel free to message me or ask me in the comments. I'm going to tell Romina I'm here, and I'm going to share this in my group. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Carrie Severson. I am a storytelling consultant, marketing maven, spiritual mentor for women around the world. I help women tell their stories. I help women break through stories. I help women share stories on stage through workshops. And within the last year, I started hosting spiritual retreats as well, because in my opinion, spirituality and storytelling go hand in hand. The clearer you are, the more you listen to your intuition, the clearer your story becomes, and the easier it is for you to share it. So that's my experience. I run a Facebook group called The Soulful Storyteller. I'm going to be changing the name of it pretty soon, and I don't know what I'm going to change it to, but feel free to join The Soulful Storyteller. Romina doesn't see me yet. All right, so we are talking about the Sister Summit event is 3 days. It's Romina Hoda, Jennifer MacFarlane, and myself. We have very different experiences. Romina is a Reiki master, energy healer. She's rooted in different sort of sacred practices. Grew up very familiar with, she keeps on texting me, so hopefully she's coming on. Grew up with very sacred ceremonies around Native American culture as well as Indian culture. And Jennifer is an abundance coach. She works with mindset around money. And then I come in with helping women understand stories that we tell ourselves and how to easily change that story mindset so that we're more aligned with the story that we want to share. So let's see if she is coming on. Hopefully this is her. She has a lot to share. So this morning she texted me and she wanted to talk about the word enough. In my personal experience, the word enough is a 4-letter word. When I launched a nonprofit in 2011, and we caught on fire pretty quick. It was a bullying solutions organization that worked with girls around the country to help them relate better to other girls. And at the time, bullying was in the spotlight pretty much around the world. So in a matter of 5 years, we had 3 workbooks published, moved into 4 different states, worked with thousands and thousands of girls. I want to say that the last number we had was like 7,500. And we were doing small workshops, like anywhere from 5 to 30 girls at a time. I eventually realized I had moved beyond the burnout phase. And when I went back and I looked at the journals I had over the first couple of years, I noticed that I was using the word enough a lot. It was really everywhere. And so I took a highlighter and I went through my journals and I highlighted the word enough, as well as the word want and need. And so when I gave myself some space to recover from burnout, I decided I was going to eliminate all three of those words: the word enough, the word want, and the word need. Because all three of those words essentially mean lack. The word need and want both mean lack, and the word enough means sufficient to the need, which means lack. So whenever I was in my journal in those early years, I was like, we don't have enough money, I don't have enough time to reach the demand, I want more help, and essentially what I was bringing into my life was more lack. So it was a big a big shift for me, a big mindset practice for me to recognize my own language and then turn it into something more positive and powerful. And eliminating the word enough was one of those things. It is, it's an incredibly common word to use. We see it all the time. Mantras are, teachers are using that word. They're putting them in graphics. They're promoting their services with that in mind. And I personally, I'm not aligned with it. I don't use it. So I've turned my language around, so that I move past that word and I actually restructure the language to find something a little bit more fitting. So instead of saying, I am enough, I'll say whatever I'm trying to align myself with. I am time, I am love, I am abundance, I am resourceful, things like that. Or I'll use the word welcome. I welcome more, abundance. I welcome more time. I welcome more money, things like that. So over the last couple of years, I've really shifted my whole practice, mindset practice around that one word so that it doesn't get in the way of what I'm trying to manifest. Let me know if that makes sense or if that resonates with you. The reason that we wanted to talk about it today is because it is a really common word that shows up in our journals. It's a common word that shows up in our mindsets, practices, even in our, in our meditations or in the language that we're using on a day-to-day, just with, text messages or with our friends. And it's a simple flip. It's something that you have to kind of get rooted in, I guess, or stay committed to, because it's so easy to kind of get out of the habit of changing your language practice. But if you're using the word enough and you're finding that all you're manifesting in life are the stories that continue to show up in your life, are leading you to say that you still don't have that thing you're trying to manifest, my advice for you and my encouragement for you is to change that word. So let me know how that feels, if that resonates. An example of what we would do at the Sister Summit event around the word enough specifically is to look at where you feel you don't have enough in your life, enough time, enough resources, enough money, enough supports, and then find a way to flip those, areas where you're able to see the light in each of those sectors. If you're looking for more time in your life, what are things that you can delegate? What are things that you can take off your list? If you're looking for more resources or abundance in your life and you don't feel you have enough of, let's practice some gratitude on the things that we do have. So some of the exercises that you do with me personally around storytelling and the stories you're telling yourself specifically when it comes to the word enough will be how to change that. And I see Romina is watching, but I can't bring her on. Oh, yes, I can. Hang on 1 second. It says adding. It feels like Mercury is in retrograde already. I've had some technical difficulties. Hi.
Hey, we did it.
I'm like, are you coming on? I'm almost done over here. That's so
Yeah, no,
funny.
it was crazy. I saw that you were talking about enough, and I heard just a
Yeah.
little bit. I was on your page and it didn't show up. So tell me where we left off.
I talked about the word enough and kind of my own experience on recognizing it as a four-letter word in my own practice early on in my entrepreneurship experience. And when I burned out and I went back through my journals, I would highlight the number of times I used the word enough and
Hmm.
the word want and the word need. And so when I was recovering, I eliminated those three words. And so those are words that I don't use. I don't pull into everyday um, my everyday practice. And then really looking at the fact that it is a common word. It's used by powerhouses, by spiritual teachers. There's huge movements on helping people recognize that they are enough. And so I feel like there's two different sort of philosophies on this word, or the concept of it. And my personal experience is when I changed that word into something else, I was able to move in the direction of my dreams and move past some of my pain points. Um, and for me, at the Spiritual Summit event, this particular word is a really hot topic, and it can easily be moved in a couple of lessons on outlining areas in which we don't feel like we have enough, and then flipping it into something a bit more um, positive, uh, getting out of the summit. So that's where we left off.
Yeah, no, I got you on that. One of the things for me, and I love your story. I love how, I mean, I'm sorry that you hit burnout, but I'm glad that you're here to tell us about it because I've been there too, and it is just, it's so difficult to recover from. And adrenal
Mm-hmm.
strain is such a huge thing with all of that. But yeah, there is when you stress like that or you get too overextended, there isn't enough at the end of the day because you haven't taken that time. So when it comes to that word and it's enough being a four-letter word for you, I see exactly what you're talking about. Hey Corey, hey Valerie, hey April.
Hey,
So glad you
April.
guys are here. So enough means a lot of things to a lot of people, but when I work with people, the funnest part is where do you feel like you don't have enough? Where do you feel like you are too much? Where you're over enough? And what have you had enough of?
Those are beautiful. See, yeah, very different.
Hmm.
Everyone has a very different viewpoint or experience or philosophy on that word. And so, coming from the language story perspective, changing that word helped me change my story. You're bringing it from the opposite end of the spectrum. And I love that idea of what have you had enough of? Like that's a
Then
story
you
of
can flip it.
completion. Yeah, that's a story of completion where we'll look at both, I guess. We'll look at areas in which we have to open and flip and kind of go sideways here, and then stories that we're completing. That's really powerful. I love that.
Right. And what's really cool too is looking at your life, and we've talked a little bit about life stories, but looking at the different wording and the language that you can use. I'm a firm believer in affirmations, but they're not enough. Haha, there you go. I didn't even mean to do that. But it isn't a full process just to use affirmations to change your life. You really have to dig into different parts of yourself without judgment and of your story and recreate and retell your story in a way that is good for you. And the process, we talk about storytelling. We're not talking necessarily about you're going to write this amazing letter and this is going to be your life. You can, and it does work. I know people that it's happened for, but you have to address the parts that are there. So we were talking about nurturing. We were talking about how we women often feel, and men too. In today's society, you have to work so hard. You're constantly striving, striving, striving. And when you step back, the it's really difficult to switch gears for a lot of us. We're always in our head instead of in our body. But at the Sister Summit retreat and with the work that we all do, and our sister Jen too, we focus on being present in the moment and taking a moment just to kind of shift into that and look at where do you need some nurturing today? Where do you feel maybe a little low? And when you recognize that and feel that space, that can really make a difference. And one of the objectives for the Soul Sister Summit is every person for any of them, but everyone who comes at the end of the summit, you will know You will know your absolute inherent value just for being you.
Mm-hmm.
You will know your worth and all the places that you've been and be able to celebrate who you are in
Mm-hmm.
this moment without having to have to do another thing. And you will also be able to see where you have yet to go and how to streamline where you've been to create something or show up in the world in a more impactful, positive way,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's for yourself, whether it's for your family, whether it's for the entire universe or animals or whatever. That is the objective in any of the work I think any of us do. But at the summit, it's going to be a really powerful,
Yeah.
powerful experience.
Yeah, exactly. Helping people get soulfully aligned with their next steps and how to make some areas a little bit broader or open. I love I can't stop thinking about that area of like, what have you had enough of, or what are you complete with? Because sometimes we get to the point where we get like so fed up with something that we just like, I'm done, I've had enough of this. So it's something that's coming out and that we can feel, but we don't necessarily understand the tactical or the practical steps that we have to take to create a new story. And so there's a lot of we talk about the exercises that we're doing and the powerful connections that are happening, but there's a practical component that is coming in as well to help people move past um, and take next steps after the summit.
Yeah, absolutely. There is. And so there's this whole, and my tripod's acting funny. So there's this whole thing of being present in the moment and having something to look forward to when you're done. This experience of storytelling and connectedness and going into this. This isn't a one and done. This is something that continues with you
Mm-hmm.
for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I studied NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and I fell in love with the concept of conscious language. And it's a really powerful way to look at things. And for a while, and still sometimes to this day, I'll catch myself saying words that I know aren't probably in alignment. And swear words sometimes count and sometimes they don't. It just depends. So don't feel guilty about those. But when you replace one word with another, it really changes the vibration from an energetic standpoint. When you speak, you create as you speak. And there's a lot of your body feels the resonance and somebody else's body. So when you're speaking to someone else, your vibes often speak louder than your words. So with NLP, and you're consciously starting to change your, not only change your programming, but change your conscious language, it actually shifts the energy in your field, and people respond very differently. Even if I'm going to give you guys an assignment for the next 3 days. Find one story or one belief that you carry that you want to change, and put it into a positive perspective and use very positive words.
Yep.
Try it for 3 days and say it 10 times a day, three times a day or more, or as often as you can, and watch how everyone around you starts to shift, and notice how you shift too. Just a 3-day little challenge right there.
I love it.
Will show you this is the tip of the iceberg on what it can do.
This morning I found a number 2 pencil, and all of these memories from like childhood came flooding back. Like all of the times that, the teacher would say, get out your number 2 pencil in your notebook and write these things down. And starting from like grade school, when you would have to write the same word over and over again to kind of get it ingrained in your head. And when I'm journaling or I'm creating powerful mantras for myself, I call them mantras. So for me, the affirmation, I think, is strong. For some people, I've learned how to move past the affirmation and into a mantra, and I usually involve a question. And so the question is kind of where I see the shift happening for me, and I can feel it in my body. But for me, there's something incredibly powerful about a writing instrument, a notebook, and that philosophy of you literally repeating that same thing over and over and over again. And so I've had journals where it's like pages of the same stuff over and over again, because I first have to, I have to write it, I have to see it, I have to say it, I have to feel it. And sometimes it does take a while for us to move into each of those phases.
And to really integrate and absorb it. I think
Yeah.
that's it. It takes a while. The mind takes a while to catch up to what you know is a true belief at times. The physical is always slower than the mental or the spiritual energy or awareness.
And going back to this concept of, um, conscious language and the word enough and low vibe words versus high vibe words. I've done keynotes on low vibe versus high vibe words. Like, there's nothing wrong with a negative word. It is literally just the difference between a low vibrational and a high vibrational. So, um, an object in motion stays in motion. What you put out, you reflect back, right? There's all these
Yep.
different sayings for it. And so the word that we're speaking will create a reaction of some kind, which will then snowball out into the world that you're responsible for. So if you're speaking a powerful word, that's what you're creating. Or a high vibrational word, that's what you're creating. If you're doing it from a low vibe place, that's what you're creating. And so for me, moving out of the word enough into something else felt more like an opportunity for my own growth than anything else. And I started using the word welcome instead.
I
So
like that. That's nice. Yeah, that feels really good. That's awesome.
yeah,
So yeah, you can change the nature of your thoughts. And I think, there was a discussion, there's a lot of discussion on what words to use or how words can affect your association, your perspective makes such a difference. So, the way Carrie was talking about her story with the word enough, and that as a trigger for her brought up, feelings of unworthiness or whatever
burnout.
came with that, burnout, then you would not want to associate your energy with that. But for me, the word enough is a little bit different. It's in the middle, it's neutral for me. But I have words that I can completely relate to. So think about what words trigger a reaction in you. And a lot of times we aren't even aware that we're consciously having these conversations with ourselves
Yeah.
and using words that bother us. And that kind of keeps us in a low space of triggered space, or in a place where we don't necessarily want to be. For me, the word grounded, because I was
Really?
grounded a lot as a kid. I was precocious. I was always getting grounded. And
I
so
can
when
see
I'm
how.
in the energy world and
And
you have to
everyone's
ground,
like,
I'm
get
like,
grounded. Get
yeah,
grounded.
forget that. I want to ground. So I had to change it to center. I have to center myself. So you
That's
guys will
so
almost
true.
always
You
hear me
say
say
that.
center.
You say that all the time. And so when you say that, I think my belly, like I'm in meditation and I'm in my belly and my that's so funny. Oh, you say root a lot too. Get
I do
rooted.
root, but that's through the root chakra, yeah.
Yeah, you
But
say root.
yeah, center and grounding are totally different for
That's
me.
so funny.
So
Um
what are some words you guys
yeah.
out there that are watching? What are some words that you might think might have a crabby or not so fun association that you use or that you need to use?
And then
Give us some shout outs in the comment. I'd love to hear your words.
And taking it one step further, I would love to say that, like, are you aware that you need to change the word in order to get in order to create something different, you might have to change the word in your vocabulary. Like, if it's triggering you and it's consistently triggering you, acknowledge the trigger, but then are you open to replacing it so that you get to create something new? That's really kind of where what we're going to be doing at the summit and where we're going to be taking women. So we're not just going to be like opening up band-aids here and triggering everybody. We want to like bring awareness to some things that you're creating in your life and the stories that you're telling yourself so that we can create change in your life to move you forward in life.
Yes, exactly. No, that's great. And that's a great wrap up on the way that goes. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And we do this in a nurturing way. So whenever you find something, that is the most important thing, is stay out of the judgment zone. Just because it's there, kind of suspend judgment on it, because judgment can make you create and invoke, it doesn't make you, but it evokes a emotion in you one way or the other. So kind of laugh about it and look at it from a place of fascination instead of judgment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I recommend.
Very cool. Okay, and so the Sister Summit event, May 18th through the 20th. It's in Phoenix. It's at the place called the Wigwam. SisterSummitEvents.com. If you're interested in joining us, we have seats available. If you feel like you need a roommate, or you want to, you don't want to travel alone or something, message us. We have a lot of women who are looking for suite mates, and we're happy to make some introductions for you. But You can always check out more information at sistersummitevents.com, and we hope to see you in Phoenix.
Yes, absolutely. I want to address some of our comments that are out here that are, Anne Marie says, when she hears people overuse the word ascension and describe all these symptoms and they appear to have, yes, I hear you on that. Everyone's blaming ascension for their aches and pains. And ascension actually has such a different experience than that. So we're on the same page with you, Anne Marie. Totally get that. There's some stuff that happens, but not all of it. It's pretty crazy. April says the words no and can't. Ooh, girl, those are everyday words. Can't is a big one because can't means we could go into serious detail with that one. So let's think of some. No is a big one because you have to say no frequently in your day or to yourself or as time goes on throughout in any situation. So what would be a good Carrie, help me think of something good. What would be a good replacement for no?
Well, let's see. If it was a trigger for me and I couldn't say it, I would probably say something like I'm going to pass, or
Ooh, that's good.
I've actually said that, politely decline. I decline, or, but if it's something that you are triggered because you're hearing it, that's a different story. There might be some some journaling that you could do around that.
You might want to dive into that.
So just from childhood, I can imagine that we're told no a lot when we're growing up, and there might be something there. But the word can't, that's definitely something. The idea of not. I remember my very first spiritual teacher, Angie. This was 12 years ago. She's like, the universe doesn't hear the word not, and so whenever you're writing, I don't, I want, I can't, you flip the sentence into a more positive frame of sentence, and see if you can get around it altogether. So
yeah, I like that. And the word can't means cannot, which is a choice. So I hear you on that one. I think the word for me, April, I had to go through a lot of that. I heard the word no frequently too. So when I hear the word no, I often think of, or if I have to say the word no, I try to soften it a bit because I know how hard it felt for me to hear no. On a regular basis. And I remember sometimes just feeling waiting and anticipating to hear that no, even though I didn't want to, and oh, I don't want to hear no, I want to hear yes, right? So if I have to use the word no, which I do frequently, I will say no thank you, or I'll soften it somehow so that when I have to deliver the no, it's nice. It's not no, or whatever. So that's something I like to do too.
Yeah. And then some comments here about, it bothers me most when my son is asking for money. I can see how some of that though is, April, I'm going to guess that you're highly sensitive or empathetic. And that might be us taking on other people's emotions, or taking on other people's, if we're saying it to somebody, we're worried that we're going to hurt somebody's feelings, right? There might be some of that going on.
Yeah, for sure.
But is a word I try to avoid, and I replace it with the word and. These are fun exercises. I could spend all day doing this, reprogramming or repatterning our language to help us create new stories. It starts, our stories that we tell ourselves starts in our heads, ends up in our journals, comes out, and then manifests somehow, some way. And so when we're able to change this and what we're writing, what we're speaking, what we end up with is going to change. It's kind of how that pattern works. So
it absolutely works. I've seen it for my clients and myself for the last, I don't know, forever. And it's funny because when something rotten or something I don't want is happening, I'm able to go in and automatically figure out where is this thought form come in most of the time. Sometimes and I need to call a friend or a coach and say, hey, I need you to dig into this with me. And I'll get support too, but it's really fun to do it together. And Valerie says, I love you, Romina. And Valerie, I love you too. Valerie, you're amazing. Thank you. And we are having a wonderful day, and we hope that you are too.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I know, that is fun. So changing your stories is a fun experience. And a lot of people think it has to hurt or it has to be uncomfortable. It doesn't. And especially if you're in a setting with someone else where you can laugh and just bring it up and make it make it a joyful thing. Say, oh my God, this is where I've been. This is
Yeah.
great. Epic, this is amazing. So,
And I like to do it in a fun atmosphere, like talking about that, like doing this um, is one thing, but when you're in a circle with 30, 40 other women, and we're asking you to look at real personal story patterns that show up in your life, it can be emotional, it can be like powerful energy, but the goal is to kind of do this in as light and fun. That's my energy.
yeah.
I come in with the sparkle, so I don't want to leave you on the floor crying. I'm gonna put on some
Oh,
music
hell
and
no. No, no. This is
get
all
into
about
the
goodness. This is
yeah.
about feeling it. Me too. We just bring our pot, we bring it in, and again, you bring it in, look at it from a light perspective, laugh about it, dig it out, say, wow, I can do this. And when you're in that high vibe place, it's so much easier to transform things.
Yeah.
And it's just really nice to have that support. But even if you're doing it yourself, I always tell everybody, stay out of the non-judgment zone. It's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So does anyone have any questions or any other words they want to share with us before we wrap up our session here today with you guys?
Yeah, this was a fun one. Thanks for coming on. And I was talking before you got on about your background and sacred ceremonies that you were familiar with as a kid, and besides you being grounded, the sacred ceremonies of like of your culture, like just how growing up in your culture. So do you want to touch on that before we wrap?
Sure. I mean, as far as sacred ceremony and facilitation, I am shamanic. I'm a shaman. Was initiated really early on through spirit, but I was also around and immersed in different experiences. My background is, part Jewish. I'm Indian, and I've got the Celtic lineage. So there was always lots of good stuff going on. My mom used to work with Native American people and work on the reservations and do the wolf rescues. We used to do May Day celebrations and do some Celtic fun things. And as I grew up and learned more about it, I walked the Red Road. It's called the Red Road. I was blessed enough to have some really great Lakota and Cheyenne teachers who taught me a lot of things. And some of my greatest teachers are what we consider pipe carriers. So they taught me how to the sacredness of ceremony. I also have priestess training behind me. And so I'm a moon goddess and I work within that kind of realm. So I teach and share with everyone how to follow your own cycles and what's best for you. What works for me may not work for you. I was raised Christian, and that's great too. So Christianity has some beautiful things. Jesus is one of my probably favorite, iconic ascended people that had so much to share of love in this world. So I take a combination of everything and everyone. Everyone's welcome, and we work together to bring our energy and our connections together in ceremony and to create peaceful transformations that really uplift and transform in the ceremony. And you're going to learn how to do your own ceremony. I've got these beautiful shells I got from Manhattan Beach in Southern California not too long ago, and they have a blue hue, which Archangel Michael said, look at the beach, I'm going to leave you something. I didn't realize he's going to leave me enough for everybody. Cool. So everyone's going to have these little beautiful sacred items to take with them and do their own step. And Carrie and I are fairy sisters, so if any of you guys are into fairy or angelic energy, you'll have a blast.
Yeah, sorry, my volume just went.
Beautiful sacred items to take with them.
My volume is on. I can hear you talking on my computer. Yeah, so I've got a lot of like playful energy in me, and we've connected on that level too. So I wanted people to understand that like the background that we're bringing in is across the board, and that everyone is welcome here, and the stories that you're bringing with you from your past are yours, and we're sharing and supporting one another and meeting new people, and it's a beautiful experience. So you're more than welcome. Yes, so check out the website if you are interested, and we hope to see you in May.
Hey, Melissa, we got one more person. Sorry, we're just wrapping up. We'll see you again soon. All right, take care, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Talk to you soon.
Bye.